of the heart flows the issues of life. And many of these issues stem from one's emotional, mental, and spiritual condition. Such issues may oppress, stifle, and even stagnate one from living a healthy and fulfilling life. So how does one progress past such issues and achieve a state of emotional, mental, and spiritual healing? There's help, so open your heart and prepare your mind. It's time for healing to take place in your life. You're in tune to Talking with Dr. Toy, a holistic approach to emotional healing. And now, your host, licensed professional counselor, Dr. Toy Lisa Mitchell.
It's just me and you. I feel so lost, 'cause I don't know what to do.
Well, good Sunday afternoon. You're in tune to another broadcast of Talking with Dr. Toy. Comes your way every Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I want to check in with you and definitely see how you're doing. But before we get started, I always want to cite my purpose. My purpose is to provide a holistic approach to emotional healing. Therefore, my mission to provide a holistic, restorative, therapeutic approach in addressing and resolving issues that adversely affect the emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical well-being of individuals who desire to enhance their quality of life. I always want to do a self-care check and check in with how you're doing. So how are you? And what did you do for self-care this week? I'm telling you, it's very important that you take care of yourself and allow that to be active in your life. That aspect of self-care, the practice of taking action to preserve or improve your own well-being. It's so very important that you do that for yourself, and it's not selfishness. It is spiritual. So I'm hoping that as we're still in the first month of this year, that you are really contemplating and activating some of these aspects in your life of self-care. Also added this concept, not my own, but I'm telling you, it's a beautiful concept that talks about community care. In essence, not only how and what are you doing to take care of yourself, but also how did you show up and allow others to show up for you? So how did you show up for others, and how did you allow others to show up for you? It is so important that we have a balance of this aspect of self-care and this concept of community care, because basically what community care does, it asks us to go one step further, in essence, to take the initiative to show up and give compassion, show compassion, grace to each other. Because sometimes people may not have the capacity, may not have the skills to do it for themselves. And so what that does is it allows you to step into that space and assist someone else with that. And my hope is that you are receiving, that you're putting yourself in a place to receive as well. Because sometimes we don't have the issue of giving because we're givers, we're nurturers. But sometimes what happens is that we become the giver, but we become maybe ashamed or feel guilty or have this notion that we are weak, right? When it comes to receiving care. And so I'm hoping that you are just really thinking about those balances in your life and how those things can really impact and add to the worth and value of your life. Well, listen, we are still in this first month, and one of the things of the new year, and before we kind of get started with what I'm really wanting to bring to you today, I do want to commemorate the life and legacy of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. I watched a service today that really just brought to remembrance some of the work and the sacrifice that God allowed this man to do for that short period of time while he was with us. And I'm telling you, it's not just that one man, but we know that there were sisters and brothers and those that came alongside him to assist him in this. But many know that when you are, even if you're not a self-proclaimed leader, but if someone places you and puts you in that space of leadership, then that movement, in many cases, you bear the weight of that. You bear the brunt of it, the good and the bad. And to know that someone of that stature, knowing of the cost that he would encounter and that those of his family would experience so that he could do this work. I have no doubt that someone has to be called to that. That's a spiritual strength that no one can bear in and of themselves. And so as we just look at the images, the videos, and all of that now that we stand in this place and can go and look as far as hindsight, we have no idea of the magnitude, the emotional weight, the heaviness that it took in order to get up every day and know that this mantle was on your life. And so I celebrate that. And even as we are in this space today and we see the racial reckoning that is happening in this nation, that in many cases can be weighty, can be trauma ridden, right? Vicarious trauma, seeing and witnessing the traumatic acts that are just propelled by white supremacy and the racist discrimination, prejudice. I'm telling you, we are in a space where I'm hoping that our consciousness is not only raised, but our activism meets that consciousness in a place where, as I believe in the legacy of Reverend Martin Luther King, knowing that he may not see and witness those things that he fought for and even died for, but sought to have, envision a better future, a better tomorrow for his children and those he would never know. And my hope is the same for us, that this life is not only about us, but ways in which we have a legacy and work towards a legacy to make this world a better place for those. This world is not perfect, never was meant to be. So there's always going to be battles to fight, hills to climb. However, there is something to fight. And my hope is that we march on. My hope is that we fight on, that we pray on, because we want to see a different, better world for our children, for those to come. And so I want to give honor and pay homage as we celebrate the legacy of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and all those who stood beside, who we know he was not alone in this, and we celebrate you and thank you. And for those who are yet on the battlefield today, we celebrate you and we pray for you, and we hope to come alongside and do those things that we're called to do in order to envision a world where we're not judged by the color of our skin, but the content of our character, and the systemic racism and discrimination, sexism, classism that persist in this society. If we can work to change the life of just one person, that can have a ripple effect of generations to come. Nothing is too small for us to do. And sometimes that's what we think, right? That is so big. What can one person do but you can make the difference in the life of one individual, and that one individual can make impact and a positive influence in the life of someone else, and so on and so on. That is my hope. That is my prayer as we continue to walk this journey of we are our brothers and our sisters' keeper. Well, listen, I've really been thinking about what I wanted to really bring before you today, especially since we're in this first month of the year. And I want to start off with a powerful quote that I was privy to experience. And I want to start off with this quote. It says this: "It is up to us to break generational curses. When they say it runs in the family, you say, and this is where it runs out." I love that quote. It is up to us to break generational curses. When they say it runs in the family, you say, and this is where it runs out. I want to talk about today just this topic. We've been talking about risk and reward. We've been talking about this aspect of restoration. And even in talking about all of that, some of you may say, well, that sounds like a lot of work, right? Some of you may say that sounds too hard. Some of you may even believe and even think that I don't think that's possible. I've lived this way for so long. This is just how it is. This is what it's going to be. And so I wanted to backtrack just a little bit because I want to talk on this topic. There's no shame to admit that there's work to do in your life. Let me say that again. There's no shame admitting that there's work to do in your life. You know, I've been counseling for several years, and one of the things that I've noticed is that when people come into counseling, and I will say this, especially people of color, some of it is a result of a last-ditch effort. In essence, the lives have gotten to such a point where they are depleted, where they are exhausted, that they have hit the brick wall, and where they are like, I can't do this any longer. And coming into therapy is like a Hail Mary to say, if something doesn't give, I've come to the point of desperation where I am walking into or scheduling this therapy appointment because I can no longer live this life the way that it's going. And I realize that in many cases. And one of the things that I say right off the bat when meeting with these individuals is say, first of all, thank you for connecting with me. And thank you for the courage that you have to have walked through those doors, because I know that there were obstacles and there were ideas and stigmas and all of that you fought through to just call me, to just schedule that appointment. I say that first and foremost because I think there is this aspect within us, especially I would say with people of color and even those who are spiritual and religious. I think there is this aspect of shame around this, the admission that, first of all, that you're not okay, and then second, that you don't know what to do to be okay. And I think there's shame around that because for some reason, we've been inundated with these things that we should be able to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, and that we just need to pray about it, and we just need to have faith, and we just need, there's all this ideology and things that shame us in admitting that we're not okay and that we don't know what to do to be okay. And so what we do is we walk around with this mask of, whether it be smiling, laughing, joking, being humorous, or being stoic and being emotionalist, or being angry. We walk around with this mask because we don't want people to know that we are in a place where our lives are hanging on by the hair of our chinny chin chin. So we mask, we disengage, we avoid, we deny. And I think what's underneath that, Brene Brown has spoken to this so powerfully, is this aspect of shame, that you have something is wrong with you because you're not okay, and that you don't know what to do to be okay. And so therefore we walk around in this life broken. We walk around in this life crippled, always carrying about the scars and wounds of war and battle fatigue, because we don't want to admit that our lives need work. And I want to encourage you today. I want to encourage you today. There is no shame that there's areas in your life where there's work to do. We are not born in this world perfect. In fact, the Bible says that we are formed and we're brought into a sinful world, shaped and formed in sin and iniquity. In essence, we're brought into an imperfect world. And therefore, we are going to be imperfect. Our mere humanity denotes the imperfections. And we have to be careful in buying into the mentality that is something that's wrong with us when we're not okay, and that we don't know what to do to be okay. There are going to be things that we can't handle. There are going to be things that we don't know what to do, how to do. That's a part of our humanity. Our finiteness dictates that. And so here is what happens when we cement ourselves in a place where we think and we believe that we have to perpetuate this aspect that I've got to always have the answers. I've got to always be the one that's okay. I've got to always be the rock. I've got to always be this person. Coming to that realization that you can't always be that because of your mere humanity. And we look at that in the point of shame. We're shamed that we need help. We're shamed that there's areas of our lives that need work and that we're not perfect. And I've had and continue to have this conversation with clients day in and day out. Well, there's a shame that they present when they come into therapy, that you're so deficient and that you're so weak that you need therapy. What a horrible message that we've sent to people who are reaching out for help. And in many cases, It's like we think we can give ourselves surgery all the time, right? And so when we need help, there's a reason why there's a 911 emergency number, because it denotes that you need assistance and you're at a place where you can't help yourself. So we call 911. But when it comes to aspects of our mental and emotional help, there's this stigma that we should be ashamed that we need help. And I want to declare today and encourage you, there is no shame that your life needs work. Our lives need work. We've got to work because there's things that are working on us and in us that we may not even be aware of, and some we may be aware of. And when we bury our heads in the sand, when we are in a place of disengagement where we are avoiding and denying, what we're doing is that we're digging a deeper hole for ourselves, where soon we get to that place where many come to therapy. They're so deep in darkness. They're so deep in being overwhelmed. They don't even see the way out. And I'm saying this to say, we don't have to get to that point where it's our last resort, that we're at this place of desperation. Because here's the thing that I want to communicate and emphasize to you. When you've gotten to that point of desperation and just, depression or anything like that, it's already taken a toll on your life. I was reading an article, a very powerful article, and it talked about how people who engage in avoidance strategies, they try to avoid it, don't want to deal with it, and just try to have whether it be a spiritual bypass, it'll all work out, and all this, they don't deal with the pain, they don't deal with it. What it shows is that these people that engage in such strategies think it may be a place of strength, but what it actually is that people who engage in such strategies experience more depression and possibly anxiety. Did you know that? And when you talk about this aspect of depression, avoidance, anxiety, do you not know that that impacts your physiological health? It impacts things like blood pressure, heart issues, stomach issues. It affects digestive issues. It affects you physiologically. And so when you have dug yourself in that hole, you also have got to think that it's done some more damage to your life. There is no, mistake about it that stress can kill. And when you talk about our immune systems, when you talk about anxiety and all of this and how it impacts your immune system, especially in this space of COVID, it is with a sense of urgency and reality that there are areas in your life where there's work to be done, and there's no shame in that. I believe it takes courage to admit that. So even when I'm talking about aspects of restoration and risk and reward, I had to come back to this space of what's keeping you from doing your work. Are you ashamed? Are you ashamed that there's work to do in your life? My thing is this, is that we must believe that if there's shame there, then I'm hoping that you will see through that veil of lies and stigmatization to know that we're not meant to be perfect in this world, and that we are meant to work towards healing. We're meant to work towards restoration, but it's work. It will take work, and that's okay. It's like we'll work towards a degree, right? We'll work towards a degree. We'll work towards bettering our career paths. We'll work towards becoming entrepreneurs. We'll work towards that. But when it comes to our emotional and mental, spiritual health, we experience shame. Does that make sense? Because what empowers you to do the work with regards to your educational attainments, with regards to your career and family, your mental and emotional health and spiritual health is at the root of all of that. And if that is compromised, then these other areas that you touch and that you're involved in will also be compromised as well. When we talk about this quote, it's up to us to break generational curses. When they say it runs in the family and you say, and this is where it runs out. There are family dynamics that have perpetuated these things in your life, and you feel like, and you may believe that you're stuck, that you're doomed. And I'm saying that is not so. The Bible tells us that it's God that purposes in us to do a work, and he will complete that work in us. But here's the thing. God requires our participation, and we must be open into the ways in which God may have us to do that work. Do you not think that God can use various avenues, whether it be therapy with professionals, whether it be this and that God can use those various avenues to bring healing and deliverance and peace into your life? God can do that. However, my hope is that as you look at your life, is it shame that's keeping you in chains to this dysfunction that you realize you're living? Is it shame? Is it fear? I don't know. Fear of the unknown. I don't know what it will look like to do this work. I'm scared that I won't. It'll be too much, that I'll be overwhelmed. I get fear. I get it. But I do want you to see, though, that your fear of the unknown may be keeping you imprisoned in a place of bondage. And you may never experience the freedom and the liberation that is there for you if you don't allow yourself to do it afraid. But know that you're not doing it alone, because you're with the one who is for you, who is with you, who will come alongside you to do this work. What is keeping you from this place of acknowledging that there's work to do in my life? What is keeping you? If it is shame, my hope is that, let me say this. Some of you are confusing functioning with being well. Let me say that again. Some of you are confusing functioning with being well. You believe, since you are functioning, I'm not in bed all day, I can go to work and I can do these things, I can make it happen. Some of you think that just because you're functioning, that you're doing well. And let me say this. That's not the case. Just because you're functioning doesn't mean that you are thriving. doesn't mean that you are living the best life that you can live. It could just mean that you're hopping along like a wounded pet. You know, I've seen this. Witness witness when this dog was running and just joyful, and then something happened. I don't know if the dog got hit or whatever, but the dog began to walk with a limp. And I noticed that the dog couldn't do what it used to do. It was still functioning, but it was walking with a limp. And it was taking more effort to get upstairs and stuff like that. Although he got up the stairs, it was taking more effort. And that's where some of us are. We're functioning, but we're not running. We're not running. We're wounded. And my hope for you, and we'll talk more about this. Again, there is no shame in admitting that your life needs work and that you're not okay and you don't know what to do to be okay. It's okay, because one of the things that has happened, again, you're confusing functioning with being well. And so some of these adaptive coping strategies that you've used to kind of get through, whether it be drinking, smoking, gossiping, whatever that is for you, it is helping you to function, but not thrive. And at the end of the day, let me say this, at the end of the day, when you look at yourself, do you think, is there more? Is this what life is all about? And if the answer for you is this is it, I want to encourage you. It is not, but it will take work. Ask yourself this question. Am I ashamed or am I scared to do this work? My hope is, let's do it afraid. Let's work through the shame. Let's do the work that is necessary for you to live the life that you're purposed to live. Well, that's all I have time for today. Remember what I always say, relentlessly and intentionally pursue authentic, genuine relationships vertically with God, horizontally with others, and inwardly with yourself. Maintain and sustain a keen sense of awareness and ongoing discovery about self as well as others. Take good care of you and engage in things that are helpful for your mind, body, soul, and spirit. And remember, out of the heart flows the issues of life. Let's continue to talk about it and continue our journey towards emotional healing. Until next time, bye-bye.
You've been in tuned to Talking with Dr. Toy, providing a holistic approach to emotional healing with your host, licensed professional counselor, Dr. Toy Lisa Mitchell. Please connect with me at talkingwithdrtoy.com or Facebook at Talking with Dr. Toy or email talkingwithdrtoy@gmail.com. I would love to hear your story and hear your heart regarding the issues of life you may be experiencing. Remember, out of the heart flows the issues of life. Let's continue to talk about it. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening, and please join me next week for Talking with Dr. Toy.